Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has not yet been achieved and you have no idea when or if it's ever going to happen. And on top of that, you're going to get the personal initiative that moves you to action. That moves you to action. Even when you don't feel like taking action, when you decided you can't do anything but take action. That's personal initiative. On call, doing that anytime that you want. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. There's a book on the subject, and you're listening to the masterclass right now that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is what to do when you have advice to offer someone. Now, there are a lot of people who have something to offer other people. I mean, a lot of people got it, right? That's not a new thing. But the social connectivity that we all have access to these days allows any of us to share much more stuff, much more easily than ever before. And we can even do so anonymously. But I'm going to tell you today how to do so explicitly. When you have advice to offer another person, you think something that you tell them would help them out, but you're not quite sure if you should share it. Maybe you're very eager to share it. Maybe you've been a person who's overshared some advice at times and it wasn't a good idea. I'm gonna tell you what to do when you do have some advice to offer another person in such a way that will be a positive communication for you and for the recipient, and that everybody can win in the situation. Point number one, the topic once again today: what to do when you have advice to offer someone. Number one thing, I'm gonna tell you something not to do. Now, you probably already know what this is. Do not offer someone unsolicited advice. Unsolicited advice is just that. It's unsolicited. Someone did not ask you for it, but you're giving it to them anyway. All right. Do not give somebody something that they did not explicitly ask you for, at least when it comes to advice. All right. This is a mistake that most people make when they do have advice to offer. What they do is force their advice upon their desired target. My advice to you today, all right, this is not even advice. This is my demand of you today. Stop doing this. Do not offer unsolicited advice to someone. If they didn't ask you for advice, don't offer it to them. If they didn't ask you for help, don't help them. If they didn't ask you for your opinion, don't give your opinion. If they did not ask you for your information, do not share your information. Why? Because unsolicited advice is often unwanted advice. Once somebody finally hears it, they realize that they didn't want it. They will not really appreciate it anyway. Even if you think you have great advice for another person, if they didn't ask you for it and they're not soliciting advice from anybody, but you offer it anyway, they are not going to appreciate what you say simply because the way that it was delivered to them. The fact that you offered it without them asking for it, they're not going to appreciate it. They're really going to be thinking about, who is this mofo who feels like they are qualified to offer me advice and I didn't ask them for any? They're not going to appreciate what you say, even though what you say may be the most profound, perfect information this side of the oracle. Don't offer it. It will not be appreciated by that person, and it will make you look and feel like a pushy individual. You're forcing your information on somebody who didn't really ask for it, and people just don't appreciate that. People don't appreciate being advised to something when, listen, let's keep it real here. Some people may be in very dire need of advice, but they don't feel like they're in need of it. They don't feel like they need any advice. They don't feel like they need anyone to tell them what to do. They don't feel like they need anyone to help them out, but they do need help. They do need to be told what to do. They do need somebody to tell them about themselves, but they don't want to hear that. They are not feeling that way, even though you, observing them, you may feel that way. So here's the thing. They're not going to appreciate it. You're going to look and feel pushy with them, and they just don't want to hear it. And it will probably hurt your relationship with that person more than it's going to help them. Most importantly, being that your goal as the person who's offering advice, your goal is not just to have offered it. Your goal is to be heard and have your advice actually heeded, right? You don't want to offer advice to somebody and have them just ignore your advice. Right? You want them to actually do something with it. So if you want your advice to be heeded, forcing it on other people is going to make your advice land on deaf ears. Is that what you want? I don't think so. You don't want your advice to land on deaf ears. You want people to actually listen to what it is you have to say. So make sure you don't do anything dumb like force advice on other people, because it will cost you relationships, and it will cause people to ignore you anyway, or just be annoyed with you, or just have a negative opinion of you simply because they didn't ask for it. You don't want to force stuff on people, because people don't like to feel like someone else thinks they know more than you know. All right? You don't want to feel like somebody else thinks they know more than you. Even if they do know more than you, you don't want to feel like it. People who are great at giving advice make that advice feel like something that was kind of like the other person's idea, or even if they do offer it to another person, there's a certain art to doing so, and I'm going to get into that as we get deeper into this episode. But for the most part, if it's unsolicited, there's no solicitation for advice from you specifically, don't offer anything. I talked about this in masterclass number 1297, how to master your anti-people skills. One of the worst anti-people skills that some human beings have is offering unsolicited advice and then not knowing when to shut up when it's not being heeded. All right, do not make that mistake. It will make you an outcast in any social group. It will ostracize you from the very people that you call yourself trying to help. You will ostracize yourself from those people because you don't know when to be quiet. And the time to be quiet is until somebody asks you for something. Point number 2, today's topic: what to do when you have advice to offer someone. Point number 2, understand this. Usually unsolicited advice is not what the other person needs to listen to and follow. Usually unsolicited advice is what you, the giver, needs to listen to and follow. All right, you're telling someone something that you really need to be telling yourself. If you really think about it, the philosophical way that we look at advice is that most of the time when we offer another person advice, when they did not ask us for it, but we feel like we have something we could tell them that would help them out, we're usually telling them the thing that we need to be telling ourselves. So what you should do when you have some advice that another person just doesn't seem to be asking for, but you're itching to give it out to them, what you should do is that before you tell them a word, follow your own advice and create the outcomes that you think your advice will help somebody achieve. What outcome will somebody get from following your advice? You go follow it, create that outcome, and if and when you are actually creating that outcome, the people who want those same results, they will know that you are an option that they can go to get the information. You see how that works? So if I was to tell somebody, hey, here's how you can get bigger muscles, because it looks like you need some bigger muscles. I'm not going to tell them that. What I'm going to do is go to the gym. I'm going to follow my own advice. I'm going to get big muscles. And now because I went and got myself some big muscles, that person or people, whoever, they're going to see my muscles and they're going to say, damn, how'd you do that? Can you help me do it? Can you tell me how to do it? Now I can offer my advice because I got people coming and soliciting, asking me, how can I get that result that you got? So the best way to get people to ask you for advice is to go and produce an outcome that makes it clear that you know how to get a certain outcome, that you know how to get that outcome. And the people who want that outcome will come to you and ask, hey, how can I get that outcome? How can I do that specific thing? So this is the best thing you can do. Follow your own advice, create the outcomes, let it be self-evident, and the people who want that same outcome will come and find you. But do not go and try to find them and force your advice on them. Again, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's not going to work, and you're going to look like a fool, especially if you haven't produced a result yourself. What are you doing offering advice to somebody? You haven't produced the exact result that you claim your advice is going to help produce. If you haven't done that yet, please, that's step 0. That's not even step 1. That's step 0. Create the outcome yourself before you even think you are qualified to tell somebody else how they can do it. Point number 3. Today's topic is how to offer advice to someone, or what to do when you have advice that you're thinking about offering to someone else. Number 3, very simple. Wait to be asked. Wait until somebody asks you for your advice. And if they don't ask, you never offer it. If they don't ask, you never give it. If they never come to you, don't do anything. People who have really good advice or information to share with others, let me tell you something about them. They don't shove their advice on other people. They never do. They don't have to. And they don't even concern themselves with it. You know what they do? They can wait for other people to come to them. Now, it's not like they're a person who has some really good advice and really useful information to share with other people. It's not like they're sitting around at home all day wondering, damn, when is somebody going to call me or text me or email me or send me a DM and tell me that they need some of my advice? Because I got all this great advice to share with the world, yet nobody's coming to me. What am I supposed to do with all this advice? That's not what they're doing. What they are doing is going out there and creating the outcomes, producing the results, and they're helping the people who are coming to them. Whether it's one person or a million coming to them, they help the people that do want it. They're helping the people that come to them and say, hey, I want this advice, I want this information, please help me out, please tell me what I can do, please offer me some suggestions, please help me figure out this conundrum that I'm dealing with. People who have good advice Do not have to shove it on other people, because first of all, they have enough on their hands dealing with the people who are coming to them. And second of all, when they have really good advice, they are following it themselves. They're producing results, and those results lead to other opportunities and other things they need to do and other challenges they need to handle. So they're dealing with their own business, not worrying about how can I force my advice on this person who obviously needs it. They ain't got time to be paying attention to you because they're paying more attention to themselves. The people who can offer the best help to you in your life, you know what they're doing right now? They are focusing on doing what they're already doing well. And then the people who really need what they're offering, they will come and find their way to that individual. See, if I want some advice on how can I run faster? I want to run a marathon. How can I get faster in running a marathon? Nobody who's a marathon runner needs to send me an unsolicited email and give me 10 paragraphs of advice on how to run faster in the marathon. Because you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go online on a Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Google, and I'm gonna look up how to run faster in a marathon. And I'm gonna get the information. I'm gonna find the person who has the right info, then I'm gonna buy their book, or I'm gonna sign up for their newsletter, I'm gonna read their articles, watch their videos, and I'll get the information. I'll follow them on social and get the information that I need. I don't need anyone to come to me and tell me, hey, you look like somebody who wants to run faster in a marathon. Let me tell you how to do it. No. Do not do this. Don't be that person. Do not be the jerk trying to force information on somebody because you think by your assessment that they need the information. If they need it and they want it from you, they will ask you. And if you're out there producing results in that area, then you ain't got to force it. All right, you already know you're producing results in that area. If you're producing results, they'll be evident and people will be seeing you, they'll be noticing you, and they'll come to you. And if you ever really just need to drop something on another person, listen, you can just drop a hint and let them know, look, if you ever want any help with this or this, I'm around. And if they really want it, and that's the way what you got to do just to get on their radar, if they really want it, they'll come back to you. And if they don't, then they just say, hey, all right, thank you for the offer, and they never come back to you again, all right, then it wasn't meant to be. All right, move on and help the people who actually want to hear from you. There are people out there who want to hear from you if you're producing results. If nobody wants to hear from you, it's probably because you aren't producing enough results, or you haven't done it consistently enough, or you haven't done it for long enough. Keep working. People with the best advice only focus on the people who are already coming to them. People who can offer you the best advice, they do what they're already doing well, and they let people find them. This doesn't mean that they just sit around and wait for opportunity. It also doesn't mean that you need to force your advice on people who don't want it. Listen, smart people preach to the choir, ladies and gentlemen. I told you this a couple weeks ago. Preaching to the choir is not a negative thing. Preaching to the choir is a very smart, logical thing to do. Because if you're a preacher at a church, you should preach to the people who come to church. All right, don't go outside of the church and preach to the people standing on the corner across the street from the church. Because if they want to be in church, listen, they can see the church. It's right there in front of them. If they want to be in church, they be in church. But they stand on the corner for a reason. So don't neglect the people who are inside the church wanting to hear the sermon. They came to church because they want to hear somebody preach. So preach to the choir. Preach to the congregation. These are the people who ask for it. Those of you out there with information to share, you have value that you want to put out into the world, but you feel like some people need it, but they're just not coming to you for it. Listen, there's a reason why they're not coming to you. They don't think they need it. And it's not your decision whether they need it or not. It's their decision. If somebody wants to do nothing with their life and go nowhere and not get the right information because you have it and they're not asking you for it, it's their right to do what they want to do with their life. You only got one life. All right, you don't have 2 or 10 or 13. You got one. You are not responsible, nor are you in control of another person's life. You're only responsible and in control of your own. Responsible for and in control of your own. So if somebody else wants to not get the right info and not get it from the master expert who is you, hey, that's their decision. It's their life. It's not your responsibility to tell them what they need to get. It is not your right to tell someone that they need to take information from you, because if they wanted it, they would have came to you already. All right, if it's evident that you have it. Smart people only preach to the choir. People with great advice, people like you, all right, they don't go and offer their advice to people who aren't asking for it. They offer their advice to people who are asking for it. So if you find there's nobody asking for it, listen to the masterclass I just did about how to become a somebody or how to get known when you're a nobody. Obviously, you're a nobody in your space. If you want to give advice to people, go find some people who actually want it. Make yourself a somebody in that space so that people are coming to you and you can satisfy your appetite of disposing advice, okay, to people who are actually asking for it. Therefore, you win because you get to give out your advice. They win because they're getting advice from somebody who asked for it, and nobody loses. Isn't that a great situation? That's a win-win situation. I like those. Not a win-lose. You win by giving advice, but you also lose, and they lose, the person you're giving it to, because they didn't ask you for it. They didn't want to hear it. And you might lose that relationship just by talking too much. You got to know when to make noise in life, and you also got to know when to shut up. Let's recap today's class, which is what to do when you have advice to offer other people. There are a lot of people who have something to offer other people. That's not a new thing, but our social connectivity allows people to share all kinds of advice with people that you never even met, don't even know what their needs are, but you feel like you should offer them some advice. I'm gonna tell you today how to do so explicitly. Number one, do not offer someone unsolicited advice. This is what most people do when they have advice to offer. Do not force your information on another person unless they have asked you for it. Unwanted information will not be appreciated. It will make you look and feel pushy, and it will fall on deaf ears simply because people didn't ask you for it. Now, do you want your advice to be ignored? No? Then don't offer it unsolicited. Point number two. Usually, unsolicited advice is usually what the giver of advice needs to be doing themselves, not what the person that they are targeting needs to be doing. So what you should do with your advice, first of all, is check if you have followed your own advice and created clear, obvious outcomes from that advice. If and when you have, the people who want those results will know that you're an option because the results are obvious, and then they will come to you. You don't even have to do anything. Point number three, wait for someone to ask you for advice. People who have good advice or information to share, they don't have to shove it on other people. They can wait for others to come to them simply because they are investing their time on the people who are actually coming to them asking for it. And if they're not doing that, they are producing more results themselves, which is going to make their results obvious, which will bring other people to them. Therefore, they don't have time, effort, energy, attention, or focus to look at what anybody else is doing or who needs their advice. They can just wait for somebody to come ask for it. It doesn't mean they're sitting around waiting for an opportunity. You do not force advice on other people because they don't want it. Smart people only preach to the choir. Only dumb deacons go outside of the church and try to preach on the corner. The smartest ones stay in the church and preach to the people who voluntarily walk into the church. All right, don't preach to anybody who ain't coming to church. Obviously, they don't want to hear the sermon. Work on your game. Dre all day.